Yes, hello again, and welcome back to Classic Dirt Bike TV and to a brand new Classic racing season. Yes, hello once again. Welcome back to Classic Dirt Bike TV and to our very first outdoor event of 2025. Now, today we're here on the top of Finavon Hill in Forfar in Angus in Scotland to hold round one of the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Racing Club's 2025 Championship. Now, it's about 7 o'clock in the morning here and it's absolutely freezing here on the top of Finavon Hill, but the weather is absolutely beautiful. The sun's just come out, as you can see, and the track is in fantastic condition. Now, this is just a natural hilltop racetrack here at Finavon. There's no man-made jumps or berms or any fancy stuff like that. It's just a natural terrain type of hillside racetrack. So we're looking forward to seeing some good racing here today. Now, with regards the championship, I think it's a 7-round championship this year, and I think there's 2 rounds that we've yet to make a date for, so those will be filled in before the end of the season naturally. And with regards to classes, there's not been too many changes for 2025 other than the pre-1989 class, where we used to have the little 125 bikes racing. We are now including the bigger 250s and 500s in that particular class. So we should see some good racing from the pre-1989 bikes. But it's good to be out and about once again in the sunshine here on the top of Finavon Hill, so we're looking forward to some good racing. But before we do that, we're going to do our usual walk around the paddock to take a look at some of the very nice bikes that are soon to take part in this round one event here at Forfar. Okay, so the very first bike that I did come across during my Forfar paddock walkabout was this quite tasty 1976 400 CZ, and this one here was John Porteous's race bike for the day. Now, this particular CZ was built by a certain Mike Lapagalia from sunny California in the USA, and Mike built this CZ for rider Jiří Stolduka from the Czech Republic, and Jiří rode this bike at the 2017 CZ World Championships at Hangtown in the USA, and I think he finished third overall on this machine, which was quite a brilliant achievement for him when you consider that Jiří was 69 years old at the time. Anyhow, it wasn't too long after that event had finished when the bike was then put up for sale and consequently bought by none other than Trevor Calderwood from Northern Ireland, who himself, as I remember, was also a CZ world champion. And Trevor then arranged to have the bike shipped over to Southampton, where he'd then take possession and then continue its eventual journey to the Emerald Isle. And so Trevor used the bike at local classic scramble events in Northern Ireland, and I think he also loaned the bike to some of the local riders there to race before eventually deciding to sell it when, of course, it was then bought by its current owner, John Porteous. And so you can see that this bike here of John's isn't, of course, an original CZ due to the chassis being a replica of a 1976 frame that, as I said, was built by the very talented Mike Lapagalia, but you can plainly see that the bike's rear swing arm is an alloy replacement to what probably would have been a stock tubular steel swing arm on the original 1976 model. And although these aluminium parts may be lighter and much nicer to look at than the original stock steel one, for me personally, I always think that these softer alloy swing arms just can't take the same kind of punishment as its steel derivative. And as we move along to some of the other parts on this quite unique CZ machine, we have the fuel tank, and again this quite nice alloy fuel tank isn't the same one as you'd expect to see on a 1976 model, so I suspect that this part again has all been custom made to fit this particular chassis. The bike's exhaust again is just a single piece PFR or Pro Form racing pipe, which once more is a reproduction replacement for that CZ original. Now here at the front end of this bike, at first glance, these forks that are fitted to our 400 machine do certainly look like a pair of Italian Marzoccis, but in actual fact this pair of forks are a pair of Italian Serianis, which replace of course the CZ original suspension from 1976. But as you can see, it's a cracking looking little bike, even although it's a bit of a made up special one of a kind of construction, and of course a bike that wasn't only built by the great man Mike Lapagalia, it was also at one time ridden by a Czechoslovakian legend, Jiří Stool Duka. And so now it's ended up here at Finavon Hill in Forfar, being ridden by another Scottish racing legend, John Porteous. And next up we've got another classic, and this little beauty here is Kevin Smith's 440 twin shock Maico. And once more you can see that this bike on the face of it looks like it could be just a run-of-the-mill 81 440, when in actual fact this bike here has a 1982 Alpha 1 frame that's been modified to take a twin shock rear swing arm, as opposed to of course what was the original monoshock back end on the 82 Alpha 1. So this particular 440 twin shocker of Kevin's is just one of two bikes that Kevin races alternately, while his other is a nice 1983 250 Maico Spider, but it appears that Kevin's opted to use the bigger 440 at this Finavon Hill event at Forfar. And with the wide open spaces of this Finavon Hill hillside racetrack, then this 440 of Kevin's should have more than enough grunt to whiz him around. So with regards to the 440 Maico engine that's sitting inside this modified Alpha 1 frame, it's of course a piston port 440, an engine that I'm very familiar with because it's identical to the one that I had in my 1980 Maico that I raced many years ago, which I must say was a brilliant power plant. Naturally, it had much more power than its little brother, the 250, but maybe not as violent as the big Mega 2 490. But the engine was certainly good and had a fantastic spread of usable power, and it was reasonably reliable as well. But Kevin's 440 engine does have a couple of nice custom parts fitted onto it, with this kind of CNC machined alloy ignition cover, and of course that Maico only alloy rear brake lever as well. And the frame's footrests are again upgrades to what was those very silly skinny steel items that the Maico factory fitted to these bikes in the 1980s. So these will certainly support the rider's feet a lot better, and probably not bend as easily as well. Now, I'm pretty sure that this mild steel exhaust expansion chamber isn't the Maico original, but a kind of new style replacement item, but from which supplier I don't actually know. And as we move to the back of Kevin's 440, the older original and much heavier steel tailpipes now been swapped for a lighter and much more efficient alloy silencer instead. But as you can gather, there's not much stock about this old Maico twin shocker, but it's been very tastefully done in this kind of black livery. And as we move on to the front end of Kevin's bike, more non-original exotica with these nice billet CNC machined alloy top and bottom triple clamps or yokes for the forks. And as far as I'm aware, the forks themselves are just your standard Maico items, and as you can see, these are also fitted with a nice pair of black Acerbis fork socks, just to try and help protect those precious sliders from muck, dirt and any other kind of debris that would otherwise damage those precious sliders or fork seals. So it looks like Kevin's definitely got the front end of his 440 all sorted out. But this black theme with the plastics contrasting with that Maico motor and the silver chassis and swing arm appears to work quite well on this bike, and thank the heavens Kevin's not decided to go full on goth with this bike and fit a pair of those hideous black wheels, which for some very strange reason appears to be very popular with classic dirt bike builders here in 2025. But nevertheless, here at the back of Kevin's Maico, it's a good quality pair of Swedish-made Olin piggyback shocks. Probably as good a pair of suspension units that you could fit to one of these old twin shockers. But of course, other good quality suspension units are available, although in fairness, they're maybe not up to the overall quality of these Olin's units, which, as you already know, aren't cheap, but then again, I always think that you get what you pay for, and these suspension units are also fully tunable to the rider's weight and riding style, and they're also fully serviceable as well, which is just a couple of the reasons that riders tend to dig that little bit deeper and fork out that little bit extra money for a top quality product. And so, as you can imagine, Kevin's certainly looking forward to riding his bike in the big pre-1984 class when the racing eventually gets underway. But even seeing this lovely specimen here under the Forfar blue skies is certainly a little treat for the eyes. And although some Maico purists can only look at their beloved German racers in their original red, I have to say that this black beauty here certainly does it for me. Now, sitting right next to Kevin's 440 was this other German twin shocker, and this time it's the turn of Raymond Thompson's 490, and this bike again is not a stock original Maico motocrosser, but yet another very tastefully put together hybrid with some interesting combinations. Now, to say that Raymond was a bit of a Maico fanatic is probably a bit of an understatement, because I'm pretty sure at one time Raymond had roughly 16 Maico dirt racers in his collection, plus enough parts to build another half dozen. And let's face it, anybody who has Maicos as their van's registration number has got to be loyal to the brand, which of course Raymond is without question, and has been for many years. But he still had time to have a quick buzz around the paddock on his battery powered bike, which I have to say is a quite handy tool to have, because I did discover that myself after a brief whiz around the Forfar pit lane. And so the essentials of this Raymond Thompson 490 are that the frame is the very first race-base chassis built by Simon Guru to take the 1986 liquid-cooled Maico bottom end, because this chassis did have extra mounting points underneath this engine to accommodate that 86 motor. But naturally, this engine here isn't that intended water-cooled power plant, because this one here is the earlier 1984 air-cooled bottom end barrel and head. So essentially, Race Base's idea was to build the frame to use just the bottom end of the 86 water-cooled motor, and then fit the 84 barrel and cylinder head from this air-cooled engine. But as I said, this is a complete 84 engine with all of the usual 84 attachments and internals. But as I remember, I think these were pretty good engines, these 84s, and of course they didn't have the old troublesome primary chain to connect the crank and the gearbox, because these were now gear driven instead. And as you can see, this is the more desirable reed valve Maico engine, which is a nicer upgrade on that earlier piston port engine. But I did notice that this particular barrel here had MMP 8648 stamped on it, which I'm only assuming is the bore and stroke of this engine, although what the actual MMP reference is, I don't know. But if you do have an idea, then please feel free to post anything in the comment section of this video. But also fitted to this race base chassis are some newer and upgraded footrests, which in fact are also made by Race Base, but these again are much wider and of much better quality than the original steel skinny Maico items that the factory originally fitted. And up here at the front end of Raymond's 490, we've got the proper Maico front forks with improved billet alloy triple clamps there as well. And as we make our way down, you'll also see that we don't have the old Maico hubs with their traditional ribs, because I'm pretty sure that these hubs are Talon parts, because I do know that they've started making replacement hubs for these old Maicos quite recently. And I think Raymond's bike is only the second one that I've come across with this new design of hub. So it'd be quite interesting to know how they perform. But what they're actually made of, I'm not too sure. But probably they'll be made of alloy. And I must say they certainly look the dog's bollocks, all nicely laced up with one of Talon's gold anodised alloy wheels. So a big well done to the guys at Talon, because old original Maico hubs are certainly getting very rare to find in this modern day. And staying at the back end of Raymond's racer, it's a pair of Dutch-made Ryger piggyback shocks, and this is another manufacturer that Raymond's stayed quite loyal with for a number of years now, so these shocks must be doing their job with regards performance and reliability, because Raymond's used these Rygers on many of his old race bikes down the years, and quite a few of the other riders have commented of just how good quality these shocks are. But as they say, you just can't beat a good 490 twin shocker if it's all set up and prepped properly, and this example of Raymond's certainly fits into that particular category. And although it's maybe not an original German-built factory production bike, for me it's much improved over the original, because it's certainly got a better set of components bolted onto it than it would have had from back in the day. So a very nice pair of Maicos, or Maicos if you're watching this in the USA, because I know that you guys over there pronounce it different from us Scots. But that's Raymond Thompson's and Kevin Smith's twin shock racers. So as we continue our walk around the Forfar paddock, this was another unusual concoction of parts, and this is Bill Bruce's Husqvarna-Yamaha twin shocker that was almost hidden from view as I made my way through the paddock. So basically this bike is made up from a 1977 CR250 Husqvarna chassis, which has been slightly modified to take this monster TT500 Yamaha 4-stroke engine. Anyhow, as far as I'm aware, this bike here and a couple before it were built by a local bike builder called Joe McLean, so Bill didn't really have anything to do with the construction of this bike. Now, exactly what was actually done to the chassis to enable this big thumper Yamaha engine to slot in, I haven't a clue, but you can see that it's a big lump of a power plant to be bolted into what was essentially a very lightweight frame that originally housed a compact 250 two-stroke Husky engine, because this 500 Yamaha engine is certainly a lot taller than the original Husqvarna, and you can see that a separate oil tank's also been added to the left-hand side of the bike's frame. Now, in the past, I've certainly seen these big TT Yamaha engines slotted into all manner of off-road chassis, and I must say this is the very first one that I've come across bolted into a very light tubular steel Husky one, so I don't think I'd be doing any massive tabletops or stressing that Husky chassis too much with the dead weight of that Yamaha thumper motor. And I also noticed that there was a patch welded over the left-hand tube of this bike's swing arm, so as I said, hopefully Bill will keep the bike on the ground and not apply for his pilot's license just yet. But certainly these are the kind of hybrid bikes that you occasionally come across while wandering around the paddocks, because you never know exactly what you're going to come across at the next turn. And this Husky-Yamaha combination certainly caught me by surprise, because at first glance I thought this was just another regular old classic Husky, but that was, of course, until I spied the engine within, and as I remember, the bike did go quite well over the course of the day's racing, so it was certainly something different to look at, that's for sure. But there you have it. That's Bill Bruce's Husqvarna Yamaha 500. Right, so next up, it's a quick look around Dean Rutherford's pair of 1983 250 CR Husqvarnas. And the bike on the right, I do remember Dean telling me that this is a converted WR 250 that he swapped to a motocross specification. But anyhow, despite Dean in a moment of weakness fitting black wheels onto his old WR, these are still quite a nice looking pair of 83s, which is another bike that I did own very briefly during my motocross racing career, but although mine was the much bigger 500, which was a beast of a machine, and these 250s certainly do make a perfect choice for classic or twin shock racing. So you can see that Dean's pair of 250s appear to still have most of their original bits and pieces from 1983, although there are one or two newer and upgraded parts also bolted on, which isn't really surprising on a 42-year-old pair of dirt race bikes. And it was this original WR Enduro model that Dean altered for motocross use. But having said that, even the WR in its original spec could still have quite easily been used as a weekend motocrosser. But generally, these 83 250s were quite good, solid, reliable machines powered by a reed valve two-stroke engine that I think, as I remember, had a 6-speed gearbox and SEM CDI electronic ignition. And this particular 250 motors got a new replacement clutch cover supplied by HVA Factory, the Husky spare parts supplier. Now, both of Dean's bikes have Husqvarna's ITC piggyback shocks on the rear, which, as my memory serves me, were really just rebadged Olin shocks. So you can imagine that these shocks would perform almost flawlessly on these old 250 Huskies, because it was definitely a little treat for myself to bump into a pair of these 83 Swedish racers again, and the memories certainly came flooding back of some of the good times of riding my old 500 CR all those years ago. And these are a model of bike that you really don't see too often around the classic or vintage race paddocks nowadays. So Dean's certainly flying the flag for Husqvarna in that respect, and he'll be racing these 83s in the pre-1984 racing class. So maybe if you retune to my classic Dirt Bike TV channel after we've finished with these paddock videos, then you'll maybe be able to take a look at Dean in full flight on at least one of these bikes in my next video posting, which hopefully I'll be able to get to very soon. So there you go. That's Dean Rutherford's pair of 1983 250 Husqvarnas. Right, so next up, it's the bike that pretty much dominated the 2024 pre-1989 125 class last year, and this is Mike McLert's exquisite Honda CR125. And as if this little rocket ship wasn't fast enough for Mike last year, he told me that the bikes had a complete makeover and some tasty upgrades have been done to the suspension and engine. So not only is it even faster than it was in 2024, it now handles a lot better as well. Now, if you're a regular viewer or even subscriber to my Classic Dirt Bike TV channel and you've been following the racing from the Scottish Classic Club last year, then you'll probably already have seen this red ballistic missile in some of the racing footage from last season. And although you may not think that this little red rooster was that quick, then just wait until you see it in action at this round one event at Forfar, which makes it quite hard to comprehend that this is still a 125 when you look at the speed and the lap times that this bike was putting in. But of course, even in their stock standard out of the crate settings, these are still fast little bikes. But the extra power that you can squeeze out of such a small, compact two-stroke engine is just simply stunning. Anyhow, Mike did tell me that this little CR125 has had some tuning work done on it through the closed winter shutdown, and this 125 Pocket Rocket has had a complete strip down and rebuild. And I think a few more ponies has also been added in the process. But you'd think that there would be some kind of limit to just how many horses and power that you can pull out of such a tiny two-stroke engine such as these 125s. But they do say that the proof is in the detail, and this very small detail can certainly conjure up some massive amounts of power. But even when you see this engine sitting here inside this Honda chassis, it's just so small. It's almost leaf blower engine size, and this particular two-stroke blower can certainly see off bikes of a much bigger CCs with relative ease, which you'll soon see when we eventually get down to posting all of the racing footage from this round one event. But the actual list of brand new parts and what exactly has been done on Mike's little 125 is both comprehensive and quite detailed. And although I was never actually supplied with a full list of the bits and pieces and the work that's gone into rebuilding this 125 Screamer, I was still very impressed with the few verbal bits of information that Mike told me about. And so basically any part that could be upgraded or improved upon had some sort of procedure placed upon it. And if I'm not mistaken, all of the nuts and bolts and other fasteners on this engine have all been upgraded in titanium. And I also expect that this quite nice fresco expansion chamber will be a much different pipe from the one that Mike had on this bike at last year's 2024 Racing Championship. But unfortunately, Mike's going to be added to my list of riders who are going to need a severe talking to when I meet up with them again and try and show them the error of their ways about fitting black rims on a lovely wee bike such as this, because my current campaign to ban black wheels on old school scrambles bikes is yet to be adhered to by the classic racing fraternity. So come on guys, black wheels are fine on a 1930s agricultural tractor, but certainly not on these much nicer looking motocross two-wheelers. Nevertheless, despite Mike's little moment of weakness, he's He's still made quite a cracking job of pimping his CR125 ride, and as I said, not only does the bike look the bollocks, this little racer can certainly hustle around the track, and when you see it strut its stuff in the pre-1989 class, then you'll be able to get a much better idea of just how quick this little bike is. But it was certainly looking besplendid here in the paddock in the fresh Finavon Hill sunshine, and Mike's 125 was among another quite decent turnout of pre-89 bikes that took to the track at this very first round on the Scottish 2025 racing calendar. So there you go, that's our first selection of bikes from the paddock at the Scottish Classics Round 1 event at Finavon Hill, and we'll be continuing our current walkabout when we post part 2 from Forfar, which is coming soon. And these are just a few of the bikes that you can take a look at when we get round to part 2 from In The Paddock at this round 1 event here at Finavon Hill in Forfar. So look out for that. But thanks again to everybody for taking the time to watch my YouTube channel. So until the next time, thanks for watching, and it's cheerio for now.